cheating on my wife with her consent. I recently traveled to Northern California, saw an ad for a Harley-Davidson for sale, and for some stupid reason I wanted one. It wasn't exactly a regular motorcycle, it had been converted to a tricycle. It's harder to fall off of, is what I was thinking. I imagined the wind in my hair, my sexy wife Deborah behind me, pressed up against me, the sun shining. I'm 74 years old, and there was a flaw in my reasoning. Deborah was adamantly opposed, but I can be as stubborn as she is sometimes. Eventually, she shrugged and gave in. I probably should have heeded her advice. It was a very enjoyable trip, accompanied by another story that I'll write up later. Back home, I cleaned it up, started it up, gave it a few revs. Everything was fine. About 3 weeks later, I was driving near the small coastal town we live in. There are some turns. Not too bad, I rolled into the first one, made it, set up for the next one, a little fast, but I thought I was okay. As I learned, tricycles don't handle very well. They like to go straight, but there's no problem if we ease off the throttle in the corner so the front wheel holds better. I slowed down a little bit, like a person in a car does. At that point, the rider shifts weight forward to improve front wheel grip. It's best to just let the car roll through any corners. I don't think I did that. Landing in the ditch wasn't that fast, just fast enough for me to flip over the handlebars. It would have been much better if there hadn't been blackberry bushes there. They scratched me pretty badly. My wrists hurt too, but I managed to crawl to the bank and sit there while the other cars stopped. That's when it hit me. Both wrists were clearly broken, and blood was coming out of all the places like the proverbial dried-up hog. My right leg couldn't support my weight. I looked down, saw a strange angle, and then passed out. I remember looking up and seeing Kathy, who works for the local ambulance service, lifting her end of the stretcher. We'd known her for years, a husky young girl, strong as a horse. "You're going to be okay, Danny," she smiled encouragingly at me. I noticed how good she looked. Her tight pants showed off a rather nice figure. And then there were her large breasts, which she had no way of hiding, even wearing a uniform blouse. Yeah, I know. Thinking like that, lying on a stretcher, I could be dead. I was in pain. I think I blacked out again. Deborah didn't chide me for buying the bike, didn't say I told you so, nothing like that. But I got it. She was mad at me, both arms in a cast. It turned out it wasn't just my wrists that were broken. My leg was badly damaged. How a berry bush can cut a man so deep that he has to get stitches, I don't know. I still think I must have landed on something sharp. But there were a lot of cuts. Yes, I was at a complete loss. And at my age, you just can't heal fast enough. A lady named Leanne Connors is my new doctor. I was just writing a story about my first appointment with her when this happened. She checks in on me every other day to see if I'm still alive. Can't say I mind, she's about 35 or so, and she's cute. Pretty is putting it mildly, plus she held my dignity in her hands. I assume that means we're friends? If I sound a little weird, it's because I am, and some things still hurt. There were pills, too. A lot of them. Doctors seem to think that pills can cure anything. I managed to pretend to take some of them, but the ones that made me feel 10 feet tall didn't really appeal to me. So what if everything hurt? All it means is that I know I'm still alive. I expected to be in the hospital for a day, maybe 2 days, but no such luck. If the wife is a doctor who runs a neighborhood outpatient clinic, then the person is getting pretty good care, I guess. Plus, if the leg is in traction, there's no getting away from it. Plaster on both wrists, 74 years old. Healing is slow. How long am I going to be stuck here? I asked my wife Deborah on day 3, I think, when she stopped by to visit me. I was already missing my regular life, fishing, going to the cafes by the pier and exchanging lies with the fishermen who happened to be there. Perch in the river. Looks like I'm going to miss that. I even missed Connie, the 40-something slightly overweight waitress who everyone is constantly sexually harassing, but it doesn't matter as she immediately gives it back to the guys. Connie is a waitress, a real woman dealing with real men, not like some elected official or head of a corporation. I like going down there. It's mostly big, strong guys, and they're all in dangerous professions. They spend their lives hauling out crab holes and nets, often in bad weather and in waves larger than the size of the vessel they are on. The wind, the cold, working 16 to 18 hours a day and sometimes more. They all know that sometimes they may just not make it home. Not too long ago, we lost one boat that had 6 good men aboard. It was even on TV, a show about crab fishermen. I knew some of them. Now, none of them got emotional over a frivolous conversation with a waitress. Teasing the waitress, who is no worse than they are, is just a way to blow off steam. Besides, Connie's husband is the captain of one of the big crab boats, weighs about 240 pounds, and is known for getting mean if you cross him. Wise tweaks are all great fun. Touch Connie, and you may find yourself crab bait on your next trip. For some reason, I fit right in, partly because my wife Deborah runs a neighborhood medical clinic and is well respected by all. At one time or another, Deborah has held their dignity in her hands. It's her job to try to keep them strong and healthy, and that's just the way it is. Yes, I really missed having a normal life. It's going to take a while. With a leg like yours, we wouldn't dare keep you on your feet. Plus, both wrists, I hope you learned your lesson about that damn bike. The last one she inserted into the conversation, and I realized she was itching to tell me, "I told you so." What, a week? Maybe 10 days? I asked. At your age, honey, the body heals pretty slowly. Probably longer, plus we'll need a nurse when you get home. Cute, I hope? I inquired, managing to suppress a chuckle, because I'd already learned that doing that hurt. Yeah, my ribs were bruised too. I'll see what I can do. Debs laughed, leaned over and kissed me, then went on her rounds. This hospital seemed to have more patience than me. 10 days turned into 5 weeks, then another 2 weeks I worked on getting my legs working again. One complication is that because of an accident decades ago, I was in a wheelchair for almost 2 long years. Yes, a spinal problem and the same leg. And that time it took me forever to relearn how to walk. This time I could at least feel my leg. Plus, I got up and started walking much sooner than anyone expected. I had been through this before, so I was an expert. About 2 weeks or so later, as I was lying in my hospital bed, Debs came in and pulled the drape around us. Let's just say she knows me, and some things need to be sorted out. I received one of her glorious kisses and caresses. To have my doctor wife do that would be worth suffering through. Being a doctor, she knows exactly what to do and how to do it. There's nothing under her gown either. There never has been. Sure, we're older, but we're also extremely active. Probably more active than most couples half our age. During my stay in the hospital on the back floor, Deborah nursed me several times. I wanted to help her, but I had casts on both wrists, and there was no way in hell I could have done anything. The other nurses knew exactly what was going on. Things happen in hospitals. It even got quiet in there. I was bathed in bed a few times, of course. One nurse named Martha, I'm sure they all use fictitious names, was matronly and no nonsense. She washed my body all very delicately, with no reaction on her part, even when she got one from me. The one called Katrina would come in and do all the work. I think she liked it because she always took her time when things started to grow. I know Katrina made me get a good soaking, and she was smiling broadly as she wiped everything off with a soft cloth. About 3 weeks later, a candy saleswoman named Tammy came by to see me. I hadn't seen her before. Martha was with her. They wheeled me back and forth, by which time my leg was out of bandages but still in a cast. Then the two of them gave me a massage. Back, legs, whatever I needed. Martha coached Tammy, I think, because after that, Tammy came in on her own and rubbed me every night. Bed sores is what it's all about. One night, while Tammy was working on me, Debs came in and we all chatted while Tammy worked. Then Debs kissed me and I noticed she was smirking. I could hear them talking outside for a few minutes, and then everything went quiet. That's what it's like to be stuck in a hospital, spending a lot of time alone. A few hours later, Tammy came in. She pulled the curtains. I'd already had a bath and a massage to get rid of the soreness, so I didn't know what was wrong. "Your wife asked me to help make you comfortable," said Tammy, and I saw a slight blush appear on her face. Now, knowing my wife very well, I realized this. "I see," said I, already guessing what was in store for me. So I lay there while this rather pretty young dancer did her best to satisfy me by pretending to wash me. It was amateurish, interestingly enough, but she succeeded. Surprisingly, it was the second time it had happened to me in under 2 months. Stephanie, a nurse at the clinic, was helping me during a physical with my new doctor, Leanne Connors. I've known Stephanie for probably 10 years, but this was the first time this had happened to her. To my surprise, I'm sure my wife Deborah had something to do with it. In fact, I'm sure of it. "Have you ever done this before?" I asked her as she wiped me down. The pretense was practically nil. "Yeah, with a couple guys," she admitted, her face flaming. "My wife told you to, didn't she?" "She said it was up to me." "My wife is cranky," I laughed. Tammy only grinned, covered for me, and left. After nearly a decade of dealing with the most uninhibited woman on planet Earth, I have to say I wasn't really surprised. Some would say it doesn't happen in the medical profession, but I know for a fact that it does. A long time ago, when I had my Medicare physical, I was surprised when my doctor asked me for urine and fecal samples. That day I realized 2 things. Yes, in some situations a patient can be helped. I guess someone reading my stories might think this is all fiction, and I concede that it is. Deborah had nothing to do with it. She was studying a couple thousand miles away at the time. I posted a story the other day, not quite in order, but I can type a little again. So I wrote it about how it happened again when Nurse Stephanie helped me. Then Tammy. Only once. My wife Deborah had something to do with it, plus the Stephanie situation. Now Deborah and I get massage therapists regularly. Like by the hour, even though we haven't been able to find one more relaxed in a long time. So it's not a problem for her. And frankly, I know this sort of thing turns my wife on, if her reactions are to be believed. I was in the garage sorting out my fishing gear. The box is usually a mess, pieces of line with sinkers, hooks wrapped around other hooks. Usually when I'm fishing, I'm constantly trying different tackle, so the box is a mess. Plus, the hooks are rusting, so I have to go through everything. Deborah came out and asked if I wanted a massage this weekend. "Sure. Okay. Did you find someone new?" I asked. "Yeah, remember Tammy from the hospital?" Deborah grinned. "Yes, of course I remember." "That's who's coming to us." I laughed. "I don't mind." "Great. I'll set it up. Catch us some fish for dinner, okay?" Debs kissed me. I hopped in my truck and headed for the dock. I usually walk, it's only a few blocks, but my leg still wasn't 100%. I realized what this was all about. My Debs was looking for someone to come to our house. Massage about twice a month is part of our lifestyle. Has been for about 10 years now. But people come and go, they move, they get married, stuff happens. We've been stagnant for a long time. Sure, there are about a dozen professional women in our neighborhood who are good at what they do, but one thing is clear. We have no relationship with any of them. We are naughty. We both enjoy that kind of relationship. I put a sand shrimp on the hook, cast it behind a big rock I know about. There's a huge hole under it. If I hook it right, the bait drops down another 6 feet or so, and the nibble is instantaneous. If I do it wrong, I get hooked and have to tie another hook. I did it right, and I managed to pull a 15-inch long greenling out of there. That's dinner. Neat. An hour later, I had 4 of them. Enough. Added to them were a half-dozen ugly gobies that I threw back. One day I cooked and ate one of them, or should I say took one bite. Yep, I throw them back. On the way back to the truck, I pondered. Tammy, huh? I figured it might be Stephanie, the nurse at the clinic, since I was guessing what my naughty wife Deborah was doing. She likes massages too, so we both enjoy getting one. Now, I don't mind giving it to her myself, and vice versa. But different hands are nice too. Tammy is young and pretty, and the way her face turns pink after she takes care of something is just adorable. There's something to look forward to. I realized I was humming as I climbed into my big old Dodge Ram. No one would ever believe that my wife and I have such a sexy life. Sexuality is just part of life. I've heard from Deborah literally dozens of times. She spends a lot of energy taking care of me, and at the same time taking care of herself. Knowing me very well, it's always women, as I am, by my own admission, a bit of a homophobe. Deborah, as far as I know, doesn't mind either of those things, so the only time she is touched by men is with Jack and Terry in Reno. Of course, that's both of us at the same time. Yeah, Jack and Terry are totally relaxed, it's great. I was getting better, life was getting back to normal. Yeah, I'm humming to myself. A bag full of fresh fish for dinner, the sun is shining, Tammy comes over and gives us both massages. What else is there not to like? The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.